am just honored to have been asked to come here and speak tonight and to be in a room full of fine people. I got to chat with several of you before we got started here, and it's just exciting to see people who are involved in the process, who love their Constitution, who love their Second Amendment rights. And as Wally said, we do own a couple of businesses. We've got an auction house in Avondale called Pot of Gold Auctions, and we've got a gun store called AZ Firearms, and we do a 2-hour radio show called GunFreedomRadio. So yeah, we're a little passionate about our Second Amendment rights. We've got a vested interest, you could say. But it's not just because we have this vested business interest. We are passionate about our Second Amendment rights because we look at the legacy end of it. Dan and I have been married 31 years this month, and we work together. I know he's exhausted, look at the man. And we have been in business together all of that time. So we like to say we should get double years, but that's a different matter. And so we have a 26-year-old daughter, we have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and we are always thinking about what world are we leaving to them? What condition will we be leaving the world when we pass it off onto them? And what lessons have we taught them? And so we begin and end every single one of our radio shows with a speech that President Ronald Reagan made. And he said that our freedoms are only one generation away from extinction. I mean, think about that. And I take it a step further and I say our freedoms are always just one generation away from extinction. And so it's important that we narrow in and that we focus in and we make sure that we are doing what we can do to pass that baton on to the next generation. And I have to say that with the current climate and the political landscape, I'm a little nervous about our Republican Party. It could be one generation away from extinction. And why do I care so much about our party? Because of what we stand for. We are the party of the Constitution. We have to protect that, right? So we have this infighting. We have this lack of trust. We have people who are looking for something bigger than themselves, and you can't blame them, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about all of that tonight. And first I want to take a step back. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in churches. So I've done pretty much anything you can imagine in a church. When I was young, in Sunday school, I was a puppeteer. I mean, think like Sesame School puppets. I have taught numerous Bible studies. I sang in the choir with the robe and the hymnal. I've been a worship leader, which is, instead of a choir in a contemporary service, you have the band. So the lead singer and the prayer leader is the worship leader. I've served in that capacity. I've been on boards, I've been on committees, I've worked with the youth group. I've pretty much done it all. And I bring this up because we go to church because we're looking to connect. We're looking to serve, and we're looking to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And the experiences that I've had in church have been amazing. And there's been a few that have been horrible experiences. And why is that? Because people occupy churches. And people are people wherever you go, right? We are a study in contradiction, right? We are compassionate, but we are also cruel. We are petty, but we are generous. We can be self-centered and conniving, but we can also be selflessly giving of our time, our gifts, and our talents. And so, this study in contradictions, when I went to go to college, you might think, well, Cheryl just said she spent 31 years in business, so surely she has a business degree. No, not so much. I got a degree in psychology. Why? Because people occupy businesses as well, and we've already talked about the fact that people are people wherever you go. And so studying human behavior and motivation and the whys of what drive us has always been very, very interesting to me. And so I kind of have this almost removed scientific curiosity as I look at, is it nature or is it nurture that drives us? Is it this it's too difficult, it's too painful, this aversion to pain? Or is it this magnetic draw to instant gratification? And sometimes the answer is yes. It's all of those things kind of mixed in together. But it's fascinating to me. And when I say people, I'm not casting stones, I'm a people too. I am lumping myself into this, and studying psychology helped me study myself as well. And I felt that understanding these things would make me a more effective communicator and a better leader. And so I have these two opposite sides of my brain, and when I take the scientific, psychological, and I take the spiritual connection to help me understand the longevity of creation, it helps me have a little bit more 1,000-foot view of history. It helps me not get caught up in the immediate fray and the panic of everyday media and news outlets, right? And let's be honest, watching the news right now, any news outlet, there's a lot of panic and there's a lot of fray, and it's almost like a guilty pleasure. There's this deliciousness, right? This gossipy nature to it that just draws us in. But to have this one step removed allows me to not lunge at every single shiver in the poll numbers of the person that we're rooting for, or all those other people we're rooting against, right? So one thing we can agree on, one thing that we definitely have in front of us is division, right? There is so much division. Nobody can agree on anything, whether it's within party, whether it's between parties. Nobody can get on the same page. But I want to suggest tonight that division, what we're feeling right now, is rooted in good. How can division be rooted in good? This division is rooted in good because it's rooted in belief. We believe that our candidate is the best, right? And that is good beyond measure. Because what's worse than division is apathy, right? When nobody cares, when my vote doesn't count, when I'm just one person, what can I do? That's when we're lost. That's when we can't connect. So let me just suggest that we take this moment and we embrace it, right? And we draw together on the idea that we all care. That is so valuable. And let me suggest that while we have everyone riveted and everyone engaged, that we unite these passions. We unite these passions together, and there is something that touches each and every American life. This thing that I'm going to suggest is the reason that people climb fences and brave oceans and risk life and limb to touch America, to stand anywhere, to stand and breathe the air of freedom somewhere, anywhere within the borders of the United States of America. This thing that unites us, that draws us together, it is a document. A document. This thing I'm going to suggest to you is a document that was forged in the same passions, the same anger, the same divisions, and the same unity that we feel today, and that is the Constitution of the United States of America. And within that document is one sentence. 27 words. There are 27 words that have the power to unite everyone. It is the Second Amendment. Nothing touches a person as intimately, as personally, as the right to protect their own life, the life of their children, the life of their grandchildren. Nothing has the power to do that other than these 27 words, the Second Amendment. It reads, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to secure the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. 27 words. The Second Amendment plays an interesting role in the political landscape. The Liberal Democratic Party has given away any association with the Second Amendment. They have removed themselves from it. They're hostile towards it. And in doing this, they've actually, what they think they've done is saddle the conservative Republican Party with this unseemly, outdated idea. They think that it's ugly in some way, and that they've saddled us with it, and we should bear it like a burden. But what they've really done is they have given us an amazing and powerful gift. They have worked very, very hard to use their marketing skills to brand the Second Amendment to be, what's the thing that comes to mind to the average person? Maybe rednecky? Maybe, kind of backward thinking a little bit? Well, I say, and here's where my psychological background comes in, that if I take a step back, I can see through that fog. And I can say that the very reasons that they have worked so hard to cause the Second Amendment to be polarizing, to keep us separate, is because it has, the Second Amendment, such personal and intimate power to be unifying. The Democrats do not want us to be unified. They do not want the people to be self-reliant. They want big government. They want us to look to big government to solve our problems. They want, pardon the analogy, but they want the tentacles of big government to reach into our families and touch our children and our grandchildren. But if we are unified, and if we are self-reliant, we won't need to look to them to solve our problems and to save us, right? It puts the power back where it belongs with we, the people. And if we are self-reliant, then we, again, look to ourselves, we look to our neighbors, we look to our churches, we look to our charities to help solve those problems that come along in life. And it makes those manufactured problems that big government stirs up a whole lot less important in our lives. So this wonderful gift of the Second Amendment belonging to the conservative Republican Party, this is a golden opportunity. I mean, ask anyone on either side of the aisle, and I think they'll agree that it's the property of conservative Republicans. We own it, right? Which is good because we love it. We love our Constitution. We love our individual rights, and we love our ability to protect ourselves and our families. And what do they say? If you love something, set it free. If you love something, set it free. We need to actively find ways to reconnect people with their Second Amendment rights. It's not a political idea. It is not a left or a right platform. It is a constitutional right and therefore belongs to each and every law-abiding American citizen. And we can help people to remember that and to feel connected with that. Let's actively and purposely use the Second Amendment to empower people to vote for their personal constitutional rights, not their party. That's powerful, especially with the limited menu that's being offered to the Democratic Party this season. They have the opportunity to vote for a socialist or the first female American president. Now, it's cool to say I voted for the first female American president, but if they stop and they realize that they either get to vote for the first female American president, or they can vote to protect their lives and their families' lives, that's no choice at all. And that's not a game we set up. That is the game they set up. We just need to help people remember that. So, when you think about the average Democratic voter, I don't know if I even want to say average, but there are a lot of minorities that vote for the Democratic Party. And if you think about minorities, so many of them have been marginalized over the years. If you are part of a population that has ever been marginalized, you should be on the front lines. You should be fighting for every single syllable of every single sentence of every single constitutional right, including the Second Amendment. And that's what we need to help people remember. And we stand to gain the greatest numbers of new voters in this election season if we will do this. If you love something, set it free. This is the thing, the Constitution. This is the thing that is bigger than me, that people are looking for. All right, so I see some heads nodding. I see, yeah, I agree with this. I want to help with this, but then just behind the eyes is that little bit of fear, because the Second Amendment and the debate and the fervor around the debate can be intimidating. It can be scary. And you might be thinking to yourself, I don't want to get pummeled with the bumper sticker logic and wisdom that goes on out there. I won't know what to do with it. I'll get in over my head before I get out of the gate. Well, the good news is you have got some amazing resources at your fingertips, right in this room, as a matter of fact. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I always encourage people, do your own research. Definitely own that. Don't believe what I say. Definitely don't quote the media, and do not quote politicians. You'll get it wrong every time because they get it wrong almost every time. Do your research, own the information, but while you're researching, not to toot our own horn, but our radio show is specifically designed to speak to the people in the middle space, the people that haven't decided yet. They're hearing all this stuff from the politicians and the media, and they're not sure, are guns good? Are they evil? I'm not positive what I feel about it. And so we try to form a show that is palatable. We are not angry people, we're not teeth gnashers, we don't shame anybody, and we don't talk down. So people on both sides of the aisle and the middle can find a place to absorb new information. We say we engage, we educate, and we inform to keep freedoms alive. That is our goal. So it's easy to say, hey, I heard this radio station, I heard this radio show. Maybe you want to take a listen, right? There's a writer who lives near here, A.W.R. Hawkins. He lives in Buckeye. He writes for Breitbart News, which is an online news agency. Can't get any easier than online news. He is passionate about his Second Amendment rights. He writes all the time about how guns have saved lives. He writes about the politics. Again, he's very intelligent. He doesn't talk down to you. He just gives you the news. We have a good friend, Rob Morse. He does a podcast on personal defense stories. So he tells us all the time about when guns have been used to save lives and do good. He talks about politics and laws, again, from a very intellectual place, and never undercuts anyone. And sitting in this very room, you have an amazing resource in my friend, Jeff Knox. And I don't know if you realize what an amazing resource Jeff is, but he writes for multiple publications online. He writes for his own publication, the Firearms Coalition. And Jeff grew up in this fight. His dad, the late legendary Neil Knox, was on the front lines fighting for protecting, preserving, and reclaiming our Second Amendment rights for decades. His are the shoulders of giants on which we stand today when we are trying to protect our gun rights. And Jeff stands to forget more than I will ever know about this history. And he sits there in this room with you all the time. He's an excellent resource. So how do you use us as a resource? Well, asking us to speak at events like this is an amazing opportunity. It gets our expertise and our message out there and moving, right? Gives it legs, gives it wings. You can, this one's just way too easy, you can share what we say, right? If you see something that Jeff has written on Facebook and you have learned something new, if you do nothing, it dies right there. That's it. That's as far as it's gonna go. If you hear something on our show that encourages you or takes you to a new place of understanding and you say nothing to no one, that's it. You might as well line the birdcage with it. But if you will just hit the share button, off it goes. Off it goes. And hopefully it will actually even touch people that might disagree. Because they're not disagreeing with you, they're disagreeing with me or they're disagreeing with Jeff. And if they're disagreeing with us, then they are mentally chewing on it. They're arguing in their mind. They want to prove themselves right and him wrong, and that is good because they're engaged, right? Another thing that you can do, if you're a small business person, you can help keep these messages alive financially. Place an ad on a blog, place an ad on a podcast, on a radio show. It doesn't have to be mine, but if you're a small business person, for a little bit of money, you can help your own business and support the message of whatever the show is that you would like to have longer legs, wider wings. So simple. I've been blessed this year to have been invited to speak in multiple cities across the nation. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, I'm going to be somewhere in Florida, and I am going to speak on the lawn of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. It's incredible. What a blessing to be able to take my expertise there and speak to whoever shows up at this rally, and I'm hoping that there's people from both sides of the fence. And Dan and I have been blessed that within our household budgets, we are able to handle the travel expenses. There's flights, there's meals, there's hotel rooms. But there are speakers out there that have incredible messages that maybe don't have that financial wherewithal. You can tell them, hey, I can't get you there and back, but I'll get you a one-way plane ticket. You get there, I'll get you home, a couple $100, right? I'll help you with your hotel room. There are so many things you can do for so few dollars. And that encouragement alone is priceless to keep the message moving. And there's something I want to share with you real quick before I wrap up. There's a group that write it on your paper, put it in your phone, but please check them out. They are the 2AO.org, 2AO.org, the Second Amendment Organization. They are really putting their money where their mouth is. They have a bus tour that is going across the nation this summer. They are going specifically into these minority communities, and they're going to have barbecues, right? They're going to interact with the people that live there. They're going to invite people out to the range for a safe and responsible day of shooting. Maybe the first time anybody's had a chance to ever even see and feel what safely shooting a gun is like. And in that way, they are reconnecting these people with their Second Amendment rights. This is an important thing. This is what's going to move the needle on the voters. And they like to say, the proverbial, for the price of a cup of coffee, that magic $4 for the cup of coffee, you can put fuel in this bus. If you put fuel in this bus, you're putting fuel in this message. And if you put fuel in this message, You're going to see it at the ballot box. You're going to have voters that you've never had the opportunity to have before, because they're going to understand that the Second Amendment is part of the Constitution, and that belongs to me. There's people that have never learned that, and you can help be a part of that. Thank you again so much for asking me to be here tonight, to share these words with you, to speak with you. I am blessed to be in a room full of people that care as much as I do about our Second Amendment, and care as much as I do about our Constitution. The future looks bright, and I'm looking at it. Thank you so much. I'm here for questions if you have any. Every single possible question you had. I'm not buying this.
I have a question.
Yes.
What can we do, singly or as a group, to get our message out?
The message of the Second Amendment? I would say the most important thing that you can really feel the results of your money is to support a group like 2AO, right?
Is that 2 or 2?
It's the number 2. Letter A, letter O.org. I've met the founder personally. His name is Brian Crossway. He started out as a couple of things, but the reason we knew of him is he was a restaurant owner who gave a discount to people for open carrying their gun in the restaurant. And so that just kind of, started the ball rolling, and now he's the founder of 2AO. And I would also check in with Jeff. If you have opportunities to go speak, go do. Fund this guy all day, every day, because his message is so rich. Seriously, we were together in Las Vegas at the SHOT Show, and Dan and Kim, myself, Jeff, and your brother, wasn't it, Chris? We shut the place down. They couldn't get us to leave because we just kept talking and sharing stories and encouraging each other. So, any others?
Isn't Ken Blanchard Executive Director of 2AO now?
Yes, Ken Blanchard. The name of his podcast and his book, it's a little edgy. It's Black Man with a Gun. But he is definitely on the board and supporting the 2AO, because when he came into the world of firearms, it was a culture shift for him. His family, they were not about guns, and so he had to break through the culture of his own family, and then kind of break through the stereotypes. And he was one that felt like, I can't go to an NRA meeting, they're a bunch of rednecks, they're not gonna get me. Come to find out, they got him, and he got them. And now he's working towards reaching other people who feel disenfranchised and not connected. Yes?
Don't you think it's true that people are more protective of their freedom of speech, but they fail to see that the Second Amendment is protecting all the other amendments?
It is true. I think that, again, nobody has ever tried to drive a wedge between us and our freedoms of speech. But there's people out there, organizations, and with a lot of organization within them, that are purposely driving a wedge between the individual person and their feeling of connection with the Second Amendment. And so I do believe that's true, and that is why.
I'll say something.
Yes.
We have a gun shop, right? And you would think that all we get in there is Republicans, hardcore gun owners, but we're finding a lot of Democrats are coming in the store too, first-time gun buyers, because they feel they need to protect themselves. It's a perfect opportunity for us, because like one of the candidates on the other side is saying we want Australian gun laws. Well, that's complete confiscation. So if you look at it that way, it gives you an opportunity to talk to some of the Democrats. They may change their ways because of the Second Amendment.
Right,
it is
it's
so
that
powerful.
choice. Do
Right.
I vote party, or do I vote for personal protection?
Right, and the people that are walking in the store that are saying they're Democrats, through conversations that I have, Cheryl says I talk too much, but
Say that out loud?
yeah, I think they're more concerned about their gun rights than they are being a Democrat. And so there's our opportunity by talking to them, engaging with them. So it's all good, you know?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.